Ready to go?
We're good. We're recording.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is the Lehigh County Authority Board of Directors meeting of May 10th, 2021. This meeting is being held via Zoom application because of the pandemic. We should all be able to hear each other and be heard. We should have received our packets in the mail electronically as well as hard copy. Did anybody not get a hard copy of the board members? Okay, let's begin with a roll call of the board members, followed by the staff, followed by public.
Okay. Roll call of the board. Brian Noggle,
Here.
Scott Bieber, Dick Bonner,
Here.
Norma Cusick,
Here.
Ted Lyons,
Here.
Kevin Baker, Linda Rosenfeld,
Here.
Jeff Morgan,
Here.
Family.
Present.
All right, we have 7 board members present, so that is a quorum. We have Solicitor Mike Gall here.
Hello.
Hi, as well as staff, myself, Liesl Gross, Ed Klein, John Parsons, Chris Maughan, Chuck Volk, Andrew Moore, Phil DePoe, Lisa Miller, and Todd Marion. We have a couple other staff members who can be introduced if they're needed for any of the items for today's agenda. Also want to point out that we do have Kevin Reed and Kent Herman here from Kingsbury as well for other matters that are on the agenda, as well as Chris Gibbons from Concord Financial, who's here for one agenda item. It looks like we have some members of the public here, including Jennifer McKenna and Brian Chamberlain from the city of Allentown. Amanda Schumacher from Wharton Lawson is on. Mason Beck is here from HDR, and Heather Dodson from Brown and Caldwell. And that's who we have on the call today.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's review the agenda. Are there any changes, additions, corrections to the agenda?
Yes, I have 2 changes. If we look on page.
Hold on, Richard. We're going to do the agenda checking first before we get to the meeting notes.
You said, I beg your pardon. I misunderstood you
All
through
right.
all this electronic stuff.
Okay, hold on. We'll be with you in a minute.
I'll be quiet until called upon.
Well, you forewarned us anyway, so that's appreciate that.
I have no changes to the agenda. I do have one brief comment to make under staff comments, and there were no requests for executive session today.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Now, turning to Richard, we seek approval of the April 26, 2021 board meeting minutes.
Yes, I have 2 very minor suggestions on page 3. If we count down from the first paragraph to, I believe it's line 3, it begins authority staff believe. I think it should be leaves. And if we go all the way down to the bottom and count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, it says the flow discharge to, and then we should add the word due to fault. With those 2 suggestions, I make a motion we accept the minutes to the April 26, 2021 meeting.
I need a second. Linda, is that you, Linda? All right. Motion by Dick and seconded by Linda for approval of the minutes with those 2 minor corrections. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
1 abstention. Any nays? All right, that passes. This time we move on to public comment. Are there any people from the public who have anything they want to say to the board on items that are not on the agenda?
I don't have anything, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, hearing none. Let's move right into the action and discussion items. The first is under Finance and Administration. We have the Suburban Water Bond Financing Resolution number 05-2021-1. It is the blue documents in our package and digital package, number of pages 7 through 12, and seeking approval for the bond financing.
Okay, so for this one, I'll turn it over to Ed Klein to introduce, but also introduce Chris Gibbons from Concord Financial. And our second guest from King Spry is Kevin Reed, who's serving as bond counsel for this transaction. So the three of you can explain what's here and what we're asking for today. Ed, do you want to give an introduction?
Yep. Essentially, we are seeking approval for the refinancing of a couple series of bonds in the Suburban Water Division. Essentially, we are looking for redemption on 2010 A bonds, the 2015 A bonds, and the 2007 Penworks loan, and wish to basically this resolution is a parameter resolution, very similar to what we've done in the past. We would like to get approval given that these parameters are met, and that would be that and as we have talked about, net present value savings of the refunded principal. Essentially, for the 2010 bonds, we expect to have, well, the floor is 5% of the refunded principal, which would be about $579,000. And then we expect to gain net present value savings on the other two, which would be the 2015 A bonds and the 2007 Penworks loan. So we're expecting to get a certain $579,000 of net present value savings, and we're already well above that, and get some savings on the other two. That's kind of a summary of the resolution. A lot of this is just a culmination of a lot of discussion and numbers that we've gone through over the past couple board meetings. The refinancing will generate a net present value savings that will be beneficial to the Suburban Water Fund, provide us our ability to take some of the rate pressure off that we've seen in that fund by lowering the debt service, and that's what we're attempting to do. Chris, you want to say anything?
Yeah, thanks, Ed, and good afternoon. Just a couple quick things. I think it's important to note that the refinancing transactions we are contemplating would not extend the maturity of any of the debt outstanding. So we're just essentially refinancing at the same term length that it currently exists. We did look at bank loan and bond issue financing for this. We did get 5 bank loan financing proposals, but the best bank loan financing proposal at this point saves $250,000 less than what we project in the current bond market. And with that as background, we are moving towards a bond issue, a competitive bond sale over the internet on June the 2nd, with a settlement expected to be on June the 30th.
Kevin, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Just briefly, both Ed and Chris have done a good job in summarizing the transaction. I would just point out a couple things. First of all, those savings that have been sent out there as the parameter amounts, this is all net of cost of issuance. So that's true savings realized by the authority, and as Ed said, could be utilized to hopefully ease some rate pressure. So that's one point. The other point is that the resolution then, should you so be inclined to approve it, would direct various officers of the authority and officials of the authority to take certain steps. One of those Chris just mentioned, which is the internet auction bond sale. And the other is to sign a variety of documents necessary to memorialize the transaction. So the resolution is in place to do so. And everyone is prepared to take their responsibilities and take their roles should the board decide to move forward here this afternoon.
So that's what we have. We're hoping that you'll take what we've talked about over the past meetings and what Kevin added and Chris added, and look favorably upon our request to do the refinancing.
Okay, thank you. Any board questions?
I have a question. Chris or Kevin, could somebody describe the internet auction a little bit? Talk
Sure.
about how it happens and who shows up and who bids
Sure,
and
sure.
et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, the internet auction is set up to allow to maximize the amount of underwriters that would bid on the bonds. A request for proposals or a request for bids essentially is sent out to over 100 underwriting firms across the country. And it's almost conducted like an eBay sort of auction. The bids are taken for 15 minutes, and the lowest interest rate as you continue to go through that 15 minutes gets the opportunity to purchase the bonds. If, and this has actually happened with the authority's bonds in the past, if there is actually a best bid, in other words, a lower interest rate submitted in the last 2 minutes of the auction actually automatically extends at that particular second for an additional 2 minutes. So although I'd mentioned it would be a 15-minute auction, it could actually be extended for several minutes. And that has happened on previous authority auctions. But he said effectively what it allows the authority to do is to maximize the savings by using the internet platform that's available, set up specifically to bid municipal bonds.
And who are the bidders on these bonds typically?
Underwriters, New York underwriters, Philadelphia underwriters, some funds that actually will bid through underwriters themselves. So it's an amalgamation of underwriters across the country. It really is.
And how long does the auction typically run?
The 15-minute period is typical. I'd say maybe another 5 minutes, so maybe a total of 20 minutes. And it's funny, nothing happens for the first 7 to 8 minutes of the 15-minute period. Absolutely nothing. And you think, oh, well, nobody's paying attention. Then all of a sudden, they're all paying attention. So it's actually very exciting. It's very exciting.
So the underwriters, the low bidder, in this case, the low interest rate bidder, then buys the bonds and then of course resells them.
Yes.
And what type of people typically are on the other end of that transaction?
Depends upon the size of the transaction. Because this size of transaction is relatively large, many funds will look at this as an investment because they can buy larger blocks of bonds. This is not typically a mom and pop type of investment where somebody like myself might buy $5,000 at a time or something like that. It's typically institution sales in this case.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. This is Amir. Your calculation, you're saving in based on the certain rate that you're going to get.
Yes.
So how confident you are that you're going to be able to get that minimum rate that you have calculated saving based on?
I'm very confident. As I think Ed might have mentioned earlier in our discussions, the resolution calls for a 5% savings threshold. We're at 15 right now. So we're well in excess of what the threshold is. I can tell you the threshold that we used of 5% is actually typically an industry norm, a high industry norm. Many times the savings threshold will be between 3 and 5%. And so we're already using a higher bar of 5%, and we're well in excess of that as well, which why it makes sense to roll in the other refinancings, even though the resolution says if you save anything, it makes sense to do it. Just because you're going to incur these issuance costs now, might as well roll in these other refinancings because you're incurring the issuance costs, get a better bang for your buck.
Thank you.
Any other board questions? Any other questions? Okay. Need a motion and a second for resolution number 05-2021-1.
So moved.
So was that Linda?
I'll second the motion.
Yep.
Linda's motion by Linda and seconded by Dick. I think I'll forego the reading of the resolution. Everybody has a hard copy of that, an electronic version. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Tell you what, let's do a roll call vote on this since it does require a tally of votes at the back. Let's do a roll call.
Lisa, you're muted, Lisa.
Thank you. Roll call vote on resolution number 05-2021-1. Brian Noggle,
Yes.
Dick Bonner,
Yes.
Norma Cusick,
Yes.
Ted Lyons,
Yes.
Linda Rosenfeld,
Yes.
Jeff Morgan,
Yes.
Amir Famili.
Yes.
That's 7 yes votes.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for the help on that. It's exciting to look at savings for our customers through bond refinancing.
Great. Thank you for your time.
All right. All right. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, still under finance administration, we have real estate transaction reservoir. Number 1, Lehigh Hills, resolution number 05-2021-2. Seeking approval, it is the yellow documents received hard copy and pages 13 through 22 on our electronic version.
Thanks, Brian. For this one, we have a different King Spry guest here today, Kent Herman, to help us walk through this, along with Chuck Volk, who can explain a little bit more about the transaction that we're trying to do with this small land swap between ourselves and General Land Company. Chuck, do you want to explain it? And I'll put the map up on the screen.
Sure, Lisa. Hi, everybody. Well, this project has been kicking around since 2014, when we were initially approached by Jandal's engineer about a proposed land swap. The project went dormant for a while, and in 2020, it was resurrected. My development technician has been back and forth with the developer's engineer on what LCA requires. And what the developer is requesting is, if you see the yellow outlined areas of the existing property, that's what we're proposing to convey to the developer. And then in turn, the developer is going to convey to us the blue outlined corner areas there to kind of help square off our property. And our access to the site, which is presently from Church Road, which is just up the road from, if you know where the Fogelsville Hotel is, now our access will be on what they call Street D as in David there. You can see the entry, and then they labeled a 50-foot wide access easement for us. We consider this land swap, it's basically a net zero. It benefits us a little bit in that it provides a little extra room for us to build a second reservoir in the future if we choose to do that, if the need justifies it. So we like that aspect. There's landscaping that's shown, or trees rather, landscape border that's shown around the future reservoir. We have an agreement with Jandal that they will install the landscape screening at such time that we build that future tank. We don't want to do it now because it would hinder us with construction staging area and site access. So basically, they've addressed all of our comments, and we wanted to make sure that we got township approval from Upper Macungie for building a future reservoir. And we did get a letter from them saying that the proposed use to add a future reservoir is permitted by right, and that they consider the structures not a tower, so that setback requirements would be met by constructing a future tank. So we're satisfied, and we recommend proceeding with this, what we call a land swap. So Mike Gall's office did the agreement, and we can talk about the details of that.
Kent
Well, go ahead.
Herman is also on the call from King Spry. He can offer some comments about the agreement as well.
Yeah, we were requested to prepare an agreement. So there is an agreement. The business terms basically provide that there will be a series of deeds, a deed from LCA to Jandal, transferring those portions indicated, a deed from Jandal to LCA, transferring those portions indicated on the plan, and then finally an LCA consolidation deed. There's also a settlement statement. The terms of the agreement are such that the costs of the transfer tax recording costs are being paid by Jandal. So there are no out-of-pocket transactional costs to LCA to implement the transaction. The resolution does authorize the execution of the deeds, the subdivision plan, the settlement statement, and then obviously the threshold agreement. So basically that's what has been done. I believe that everything is in place. We did review the title. There are no liens or encumbrances which would adversely affect the interest being conveyed to LCA. So anybody have any questions regarding any of those issues or what we did or what's required at this point to finalize the transaction?
Yes, this is Amir. I have a couple of questions. So just for my understanding, we are getting those 3 blue triangle and we are giving those, everything on the yellow bracket goes to Jandal. Is that correct?
That's correct, Amir.
Okay. So what is the exchange on the square footage for one versus the other?
We're getting a little bit more area, slightly. It's very close though.
So did we get I mean, I'm just asking, maybe this is not appropriate questions, but did we appraise what is the value of that land versus value that we are getting the exchange?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I mean, Jandal normally does not agree on things that is not, strongly in his favor. So
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I did mention earlier that this does benefit us a little bit in that it gives us a little bit more area to construct a future tank. So we do see this as a benefit.
yeah, I'm just trying to see if we can get some money in exchange. That's the reason I asked, we did get appraised, this piece of parcel of land that they're getting versus us, what is the appraisal value on one versus the other?
Yeah, I'm not a real estate expert, but I think the thinking was the equivalency and the square footage, that there is a small gain to LCA kind of put the transaction in a posture where an appraisal didn't appear to be a necessary requirement, but certainly you could look at that differently.
I mean, square footage sometimes, if, the value of the land is the location of the land, obviously. I think it would be a nice gesture or a confidence building that one would get an appraisal and what is the value of that versus the other. So if there's some money be extracted for our ratepayer, that would be great.
Any other board comments?
What's the square footage we're talking about?
I don't know the square footage offhand, Ted.
What is it, 100,000 square feet? Is it 10,000 square feet?
No, it's more, it's a fraction of an acre. It's
a fraction of an acre,
okay.
Right?
It's more like a half an acre.
Okay, forget it. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's the reason I asked the square foot. Okay.
I think the square footage was included within the documents, the yellow documents that were received for each of the individual parcels. There's land description for each of the sections. Clearly, Jana will get additional site development opportunities out of this, but at the same time, we are not losing anything with regard to our ability to function. So any other comments from the board?
Yeah, I just would add just 2 comments. I mean, obviously Jandal's getting 4 more lots out of the deal, which helps, but I don't know how many customers are we getting out of it with this development versus water and sewer. Are we getting any customers here?
Yes, we are. That's Chuck, I don't know if you know how many, but it's I believe in the neighborhood of 200 residential units,
Yeah,
single family, and then another portion of the development is townhomes and apartments.
right. So I mean, I agree with Amir on the details, but in the big picture, I think that this is a reasonable adjustment for the amount of, because without the development, we're getting no customers. So I'm in favor of it.
Jeff, that's a good point. That's an excellent point.
I have a question regarding the tanks themselves, the existing tank structure, diameter and height, and what will prompt us to install another reservoir on that site?
Basically, if we would need additional fire flow storage volume, depending on what happens with development out there in Western Lehigh, if the existing tank would be inadequate to serve fire flow needs. Right now it is adequate.
Chuck, can just a little more on that. The existing tank will serve how many people, and then how many additional people could be served by the second tank?
Well,
or lots?
Yeah, I don't have a number of EDUs. I do know we have been talking about that tank a lot lately with some proposed development out there. And that tank would be adequate to serve that industrial development. But we have a mix of residential, and that's the high service area. We have a mix of residential and commercial, and now coming industrial. And also that tank provides fire flow service to Boston Beer and Nestle via a 12-inch water line that goes under 78.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
One more question with regard to the trees are going to be removed that are currently on the site for the second tank. And are they going to do that right away? And then are they going to also remove the stumps?
Yeah, they're going to remove the stumps. They're going to remove some trees right away that impact their proposed lot layout. But we're going to try to keep whatever vegetation is around the existing tank there as much as possible. And I misstated when I said a 12-inch water line. I meant to say 20-inch water line that goes under 78.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, one final comment. I added up the square footage, 15,755 to Jandal, 19,401 to LCA. So that's the respective total of the square footage.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, we have before us resolution number 05-2021-2 for land transfer between LCA and Jandal land. Need a motion for acceptance of that.
So moved.
Motion by Linda and Dick. Did you second that? Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dick. Sorry. Got a little bit of interference there. All right, any questions? All right, roll call on this one as well, resolution.
Roll call vote for resolution 05-2021-2. Brian Noggle,
Yes.
Dick Bonner,
Yes.
Norma Cusick,
Yes.
Ted Lyons,
Yes.
Linda Rosenfeld,
Yes.
Jeff Morgan,
Yes.
Amir Famili.
Yes.
I think we have 7 yes votes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And thanks for your work on putting this one together.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to water topics. We have the Allentown Division Water Filtration Plant 2021 indenture upgrades, construction phase authorization, seeking approval, green documents, digital board package 23 through 26.
All right, this is a Chuck Capital Works project.
Yep. This project is as a result of the annual consulting engineers report that's prepared for the city's water and sewer vertical structures. And we're required to prepare an annual report because of the trust indenture due to the upfront concession payment to the city. So this is something that we're routinely required to do. Arcadis provides the annual report. The annual report identifies how we're operating the system. It details any deficiencies with the structures and recommends short and long-term repairs. So we have a bit of a backlog of work at the water plant and surrounding stations. Staff has been doing whatever they can internally to address immediate deficiencies, but due to prior budget concerns, we haven't done any prior big projects to address the deficiencies identified in the report. So this is the first project that we're doing, the first large capital project to catch up and address structural deficiencies at the water filtration plant. It's mostly concrete work. It's concrete cracking, spalling, delamination, what we call crazing, which is fine cracks developing at the surface from surface shrinkage. And the work is located around the filter tanks and the intake structure and administration building, various railing mounts. So it's important work that we want to catch up on and start cleaning up these deficiencies. So we advertised the project for bid in late March, and we opened bids in late April. We received 2 bids. The lowest bidder is Quinn Construction. They have not done any prior work with us, but they're well known in down near Philly that they've done a lot of work for Delcora, which is a large wastewater plant in Chester area. And our engineer checked out their qualifications and they are qualified to perform the work. I did indicate on page 2 under the little table showing the bid results that this exceeds our budget for this project. However, the way the bid is structured, it's unit price work to be performed as directed. So we're just going to scope our work so that we stay within budget and do whatever we can this year, knowing that we'll have another project next year to address deficiencies based on the annual report prepared by Arcadis. So I am requesting capital project authorization for this project, award of bid to Quinn Construction. And then I have a PSA attached for construction phase services for our design engineer, Dewey Engineers. So with that, I'll entertain any questions you guys have.
How far over the budget?
Well, the budget's $300,000, Ted, and it's part of it's under the umbrella of annual projects. So we have a bunch of allowances and other unit price items there that we can tailor the scope of work accordingly.
So
Thank
Chuck,
you.
I would add, I've actually worked with Quinn Construction. They did a real good job.
Good to know.
Yeah, and also, I guess I would add too, depending on the unit prices, I don't think we want to waste the time rebidding something and getting charged for bonds, insurance, and mobilization, if there's a little bit more work to be done under this contract on per the unit prices, that might be more efficient and cost effective. Just to think about that, as you get to the end of the job.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Chuck, do you know that you talk about shrinkage and crack in concrete. So, the technology, they add polymeric additive to the concrete to minimize shrinkage and cracking. Is the client going to use some polymeric modified concrete to avoid the shrinkage and cracking in the future?
I'm sure, Amir, that Quinn will submit shop drawings of all their concrete additives and admixtures, and our engineer is a structural engineer, and we'll make sure that whatever they use, we can avoid this kind of cracking in the future. And a lot of it deals with the preparation too. They have to get down to a stable base, and it requires a lot of removal of some of that concrete. So there's interesting examples of deterioration over there that it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all repair.
I mean, normally using polymeric modified concrete is costly, so it's something that you want to look.
Yeah, I'd have to check the specs, but the contractor will be required to submit all that stuff as shop drawings. So whatever is needed for particular applications, we'll have them include.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Chuck, Brian here. Just to me, I mean, this has been a requirement since the initial stages of the lease agreement to review the projects and prioritize them. And this is our first one we're actually doing. Can you describe, are these safety issues, structural issues, versus process issues? Aren't there process issues that could be more important than cosmetic or structural issues?
Yeah, these are structural issues, Brian. They're not process issues. It's all structural work that is part of asset management, and it needs to be repaired to avoid the further degradation of the various concrete structures.
Okay, but are there other process improvements that are necessary that we can get to after we take care of the structural and integrity issues of the structures?
Sure. I mean, we have lots of needs identified over there in the capital plan related to process. The intake structure and the filters are a big one. They're reflected on the capital plan. I think that the emphasis with this project, Brian, is just to kind of clean up the backlog in these deficiencies and avoid further degradation. But that we do have a priority to spend money on process improvements. We don't. The big one this year is a high service VFD project.
Sure. Okay, thanks, Chuck.
Brian, I would just add to that where so if you look at in the scope of work, it talks about these railing mounts. And while that may seem insignificant, I've actually had projects where that cracking has occurred. And if it was repaired early on, it might have been one repair. And while it waited and waited, you ended up cutting like a foot, or a foot and a half of a concrete tank off all the way around the tank and pouring new concrete and things like that. So while some of these things might seem incidental, doing them sooner than later. And I haven't seen any of these, but just in general, just to further expand on what Chuck said.
Yeah, I understand that. That's important to do. You don't want to let things go so long that they become major capital projects instead of
Right.
getting it structurally repaired and fixed and protected. Any other comments from board members? Any other comments from anybody? Okay, we have a capital project authorization for construction phase of $398,075. That includes professional service authorization of $11,000 to Dewey Engineering and a general construction contract to Quinn Construction for $372,575. Need motion and a second.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Jeff and seconded by Norma. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next topic is Suburban Division. Arcadia West Water Storage Tank Replacement Construction Phase Authorization. It's the pink document seeking approval, digital board package 27 to 31.
Okay, well, this is Capital Works project as well. I'm gonna have Amy Kunkel, our project engineer, discuss the details of this project. I'll just introduce the project. This serves the industrial park that's right off the new Smithville exit of 78 Arcadia West, we call it, and it also serves the Weisenberg Elementary School. This tank is over 20 years old. It's a bolted steel tank that's in poor condition. We had an internal and external inspection work done by Suez a few years ago, and they identified numerous areas of corrosion, both inside and outside, and they provided some recommendations for improvement. Subsequently, we had an engineer do a condition assessment of the tank and outline various alternatives for either repairing or replacing the tank. The engineer identified the lowest life cycle cost was to replace the tank with a concrete tank. So that's what the basis of design has been. And so Amy can go into the details of putting together and bidding this project. And you're muted. Yep, there you go.
Yeah, no, okay. So NTech Engineering did the design of the tank. It's a new concrete tank, and it's going to be installed adjacent to the existing tank so that customers can remain in service during the construction of the new tank. And then we would have minimal disturbance to their water service just when we have to tie in the tank to the actual distribution system. And then the existing tank will be dismantled and removed. We put the bid out in April of this year, and we had 2 bidders submit bids. The reason there were only 2 bidders was that the actual tank manufacturers opted to bid the project as the general contractor because the amount of tank construction is large compared to the incidental construction, the site work, and there's some minor structural work. So they bid it and then are going to have subcontractors do that incidental stuff. So that was the reason there were 2 bidders rather than 5 or 6. Both of them are nationally known tank manufacturers and installers. The low bid was submitted by DN Tanks for $1,027,670. They've done a lot of work nationally. They've done our Reservoir 5 and also the FEB at the pretreatment plant, I believe. So all their documents were in order. So we're recommending that we go with DN Tanks for the construction contract. We're also recommending in this request that we use NTech engineering for the construction engineering and inspection services, part-time inspection.
Okay, done, Amy?
I think so, unless you have questions.
All right, questions by board?
How many steel tanks do we have in service in LCA that are over 20 years old?
Steel tanks? I'm having a hard time thinking of any.
On the suburban side,
Yeah, we have a bunch.
half a dozen or so.
Are they more the satellite systems?
Reservoir One up at Lehigh Hills that we just talked about, that's a steel tank.
Yeah, I think that's a welded steel tank.
They're all welded except this one we're talking about is bolted.
Yeah, the welded steel tanks last longer, and it's a better approach versus the bolted steel. This one, you can only, operations is afraid of over tightening and stripping those bolts. The more you go and try to tighten those bolts, you have a risk of some permanent damage to that tank. Incidentally, that tank's been shot a couple times too. I don't know where the bullets came from, but I think the tank is a target of some sort.
So the challenge with this tank, because it was a bolted steel tank, and around the bolted area, we started seeing some degradation in the rusting.
Yeah, and Amir, all of our other storage tanks are under a maintenance contract with Suez, and because this was a bolted tank, they wouldn't touch it. So
Okay,
it's not being maintained like the others are.
thanks for clarification.
Any other questions from the board?
Just a comment from me, Brian. I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
I'm going to abstain from a vote. My wife works for NTEC. She has nothing to do with this project, but I'm going to abstain.
Okay, thank you for mentioning that.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions?
Just to follow up on Jeff's comment that we do have his conflict of interest documented previously. So that part, administrative detail is taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, we have before us a capital project authorization construction phase for Suburban Division Arcadia West water storage tank replacement in the amount of $1,176,670. That includes a construction contract general to DN Tanks for $1,027,670, and a professional services construction phase engineering and inspection to NTEC Engineering for $69,000. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Ted.
I'll make,
Second, Ted.
Go ahead, Ted.
Okay.
All
So
right.
moved, Ted.
All right, I'm not sure who did first here. So who made the motion?
I moved
Ted
it,
can
Ted.
have the motion.
That has the motion.
Sorry, Ted motion and Linda second?
Okay.
How's that sound? All right. Motion made and seconded. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And one abstention from Jeff due to potential conflict of interest. Okay, thank you very much. That's passed.
Yeah.
All right, now we go to the Suburban Water Division Emergency Declaration, Water Main Relocation. It's the gray document seeking approval of this emergency declaration. Digital board package 32 to page 33.
And this one was submitted by our operations manager, Jerry Shavala, for our Suburban Division. But John, I'm hoping you can give an overview of this.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
We had a water main break discovered at the Meadowick Townhouse complex on April 23rd. It's an 8-inch main that was discovered to be about 15 to 17 feet deep. right next to a building and a pool and a couple other things. And we were in sinkhole territory, and we wanted to get this line fixed as soon as we possibly could to avoid building damages or whatever else might have happened. So we didn't want to go through the time-consuming process of a bid. We got a contractor in to work on fixing everything. The actual work started last week and was supposed to, I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago, and was supposed to end on Wednesday of last week. They ran into some problems with a couple of unmarked stormwater lines and one electrical line that they had to work around. So it's gone a couple days extra. They're hoping to finish by mid to late of this week. And we're looking at the tire job is replacing 500 feet of 8-inch ductile iron pipe, 2 wet taps, an 8x4 T, and a 4-inch valve for the clubhouse service line. The emergency total is $100,000, $192.33. And that's what we are looking for today, an emergency retroactive declaration for that amount. Again, $100,192.33 to go towards this project, which was deemed an emergency.
Where is that?
It's
Exactly.
just a little bit to the west of main office here, up towards Hamilton. About
Yeah,
a half mile away, I'm told.
yeah, it's behind, there's a 2-story salon. I forget what it's called, just west of here. It's kind of behind there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, what was that number again? The total number? 100?
100,000, 192.33.
Okay. So that's different than the document we have here. And is the work actually done, or you said it was still not done? And is that going to be the final number?
It's supposed to be done by mid to late week. And I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the same document. You said you don't have the same amount. There's a.
Oh, no, okay. You're adding the two together, which is the excavating plus the core and main.
Yeah.
Material.
And
Okay,
core and main, all the valves and pipe and everything else.
So there's nothing different from what we already have.
Right.
All right. Board questions? Just a comment, John. It appears that we put this line in at one point in time, and then the developer came in and put fill material in to build the structure. Is that true?
According to what I know and have been told by others, that's a possibility, but no one seems to have been around when that happened that I have talked to.
Okay. It's because it's unusual to have a building structure so close to our pipeline.
That, and we would have never buried it unless we had
17 feet deep.
Exactly.
So apparently, it seemed like they had backfilled and made it that deep for us, and also put their building structure close by.
Most likely, we acquired it in that condition.
Okay, that's true.
Well, most of our suburban systems were acquired by the developer that actually constructed them.
All right. Okay, so we have emergency authorization declaration. Need a motion and a second to approve that retroactively.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Missed that again. Was that Amir?
Yes.
Yes, it was me.
Okay, Jeff made the motion and seconded by Amir for the retroactive emergency declaration. Total of $100,192.33, I think it was. Yep, 33 cents. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, finally, wastewater. Under wastewater, we have Allentown Division, Klein's Island. Wastewater treatment plant, 2021 indenture upgrades, construction phase, authorization, approval, salmon documents, report packet 34 to 38.
This one will sound similar to what we heard before.
Yeah.
Chuck, go ahead.
So this is my last project for today. So this is similar, similar to the work that you folks just authorized for over at the filtration plant. It's deficiencies identified in the annual indenture report that we are addressing some of the higher risk deficiencies. The work is a little bit different in that there's some corroded, degraded window and door lintels that are being replaced. There's masonry repointing and grouting, some roofing work. There's some work at the bases of the trickling filter towers. There's some pipe painting and flashing and roof coping repairs. So this work was, we pretty much cobbled together what we considered the highest risk work and the prioritized issues, the prioritized deficiencies, and we put a project together that we bid. We advertised for bid back in March, and we opened bids in April. And we have two contracts for this project. We have a general contract and we have a painting contract. We received 3 bids for the general contract and 1 bid for the painting contract. The low bidder for the general was Blooming Glen. They've done a lot of work for us at Klein's Island, and they did the park pump station upgrade. They're working now at the Buss Acres well station upgrade project. They helped us out at the park pump station force main investigation, and they're our on-call contractor for emergency services over there at Klein's Island. So we're recommending award of the low bid to Blooming Glen for the general. And then for the painting, unfortunately, we only received 1 bid. We do know that contractor. That contractor did the low lift area, the low lift pump area painting project over at the filtration plant a couple years ago, and they did a really good job. And they've done a lot of other work in the city at both facilities. So we're recommending award of that contract to AFN USA. I also have a professional services authorization for the design engineer, which is again Dewey Engineers, the same design engineer on the work over at the filtration plant. So I'm asking for construction phase authorization and award of bids for this. And this is also the first large indenture project over at Klein's Island, where staff has been addressing issues within the constraints of budget for a few years now. But this will help us catch up on the backlog of identified deficiencies and get that cleaned up.
Okay, thanks, Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
Any more from staff? Comments by board?
Oh, I will add, I do have Brian Geisel is on the line. He's Capital Works Allentown Division Project Manager. His office is over at Klein's Island. If anybody has any technical questions, Brian is available to answer them as well.
Board comments, questions? Okay, any other comments? All right, we have before us capital project authorization, construction phase, Allentown Division, Klein's Island, wastewater treatment plant. 2021 indenture upgrades project construction phase for total amount of $538,778. That includes a contract number 1, general award to Blooming Glen contractors for $386,923. Contract number 2 for painting to AFN USA for $71,855, and a professional services authorization to Dewey Engineering for $15,000. I have a motion and a second.
So moved.
I'll make that. I'll second it.
Linda, motion by Linda and
No,
seconded
no,
by
that was Norma.
That was
Norma.
me. Yes.
Okay, thank you for correction. Motion by Norma, seconded by Dick. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, time for monthly project updates, information items. May 2021 report was attached.
Thank you. And thank you all for all of the approvals today. We had an awful lot to cover today, a lot of details. So appreciate your attention to those. You'll see on the monthly project update report that most of the items we've already just covered at today's meeting. I'll just draw your attention to one item under wastewater, which will be on the agenda for next meeting. And that relates to the solids process boiler and HVA system down at Klein's Island and an upgrade to that project. But that will be before the board at the next meeting. Also, it's not listed here, but either at the next meeting or in June, we'll be prepared to provide some kind of update on the Act 537 plan, as well as the Trexler Town issues that Phil's been working on. So we'll have that as a presentation either at next meeting or the meeting after that in June. If there's any questions on any of the action items in the report, happy to try to answer them.
Any board member comments, questions? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Staff comments, you had said you had one item.
Yeah, just one brief item. I wanted to mention that last week, I'm sure many of you have already heard, but last week the governor of Pennsylvania did make an announcement that pandemic restrictions would be lifted for businesses and general restrictions throughout Pennsylvania, effective on Memorial Day or for Memorial Day, except for the wearing of the masks. So I just wanted to bring that up because staff is meeting and discussing what that means for our operation. And one of the topics of discussion should be also how we conduct our board meetings. I don't have a specific plan or recommendation at this point, but wanted to raise it here. And certainly if there were board comments or feedback on how we conduct meetings after the restrictions are lifted.
I have a comment.
Love to hear them. Sure.
Yeah, I think we should talk about how we're going to make that decision, as opposed to just drifting into it and kind of spinning around and being blown by the wind. And I don't have a specific suggestion, but I think we should, in the immediate future here, make a decision on when we will know that it's time for us all to get back together and have that discussion. And I don't know if we want to go to the CDC for that, or certainly the governor's stuff is important, but I think it's important that the board make this decision and be proactive on making the decision.
And I think what we've been trying to do this whole time has been to follow recommendations by the CDC, as well as what's happening specifically here in Pennsylvania. So, we're kind of at the early stages of reviewing what's out there with the change that the governor has announced. But certainly in Pennsylvania, it's really been left to the governor. So in Pennsylvania, the size of gatherings and the capacity of buildings and that sort of thing has been state by state or municipality by municipality. So if all of that is lifted, then it really does become our own choice, so to speak, in terms of how we want to operate. I think the online virtual meetings have been going really well, but there's also some benefit to being together in the same room. So,
have there been any changes to the air filtration system at LCA's offices?
There has been some in terms of the amount of outside air that gets circulated in. The specifics of that during the different seasons, I can't give you, but there's been kind kind of a constant adjustment on that in terms of the amount of outside air that comes in, and the handling within our HVA system.
There hasn't been any ultraviolet purging of the air filtration.
No.
Has that been looked at all?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a comment on that. The jury's still out on a lot of these remedies that were proposed and actually installed in facilities. The use of ultraviolet light, the use of special filters, the use of all kinds of stuff that are out there. And the bottom line is there is no bottom line. So even if you have done something specifically that was advertised by X, Y, or Z, the CDC has no comments on any of these things, quite frankly, because I did research it and talked to people in the field. Now, this is not to say these things would not help, but you will find no definitive statement by CDC or anybody in a position of authority regarding the effectiveness of these retrofits to HVAC systems, other than just open the windows and get as much fresh air as possible.
Right.
And that's what we did here. We increased our outside intake considerably and made positive pressure inside our main lobby and boardroom area. So every time you open our outside door, you get
It helps.
If you had hair, it would get blown back.
Your toupee blows off. Yeah, good.
Yeah, but that's what we did.
All I know is
that's good.
Exhaust ducts directly discharge on the top of our heads on the front row there.
It will mess up your hair.
Okay, I agree, Ted, that you're in the business, or you have been in the business of air and air quality, and appreciate your looking into that. If you can get any more information that helps us feel like we'll be safe when we're getting back together again, appreciate that. Or anybody else that can help us with that.
I don't think there's anything preventing us from continuing to meet virtually as well.
Not at all. Not at all.
So I would, encourage us to go into it carefully and think our way through what we want. But again, I think the point is that it really will be left to the organization to try to decide, how it wants to operate. Because once the state lifts the restrictions, yes, we could meet, as we normally did, as long as the masks are in place. Do we want to do that, or do we want to continue to meet virtually for a period of time? I think that's our, the board's decision to make.
Yeah. Personally, I like the idea of waiting until after things shake out, after all the restrictions are lifted, just so we make sure that was a smart move.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing fine virtually. I'd like to be back together again with all of you. Missing the lunches.
That's the big problem.
Do we know how many people have been vaccinated in throughout our workforce?
We don't. We have not made it mandatory, and we have not made reporting mandatory either, although we have asked employees to submit their information if they have been vaccinated, so that we know where we stand. But we know there was a lot of interest in it, but we know not everyone is getting it. And that, to give you numbers on it, we really couldn't do that.
From a legal standpoint, Michael, can we ask all the board members whether or not they've had their full vaccination, and what cannot do?
Well, we would have to look at that, but I think that we don't want to venture into that topic now because we are in a public meeting. So why don't we look at that and we can think about that outside of the meeting.
Sure.
Mike, I have a question for you. I know that back when this started, the state was considering some changes to I don't know if it was the Sunshine Law or whatever, to allow for the virtual meetings. Was that permanent? Is it temporary? Is that stuff going to expire and everybody's going to be expected to be back in person? Or do you know what the background is on that?
Well, I didn't want to get too much into that because there are legal principles that are involved in the meeting rules. So there's a couple of different rules that can come into effect. The first one is the Sunshine Act, which applies to all the public entities in Pennsylvania. And then there is the Municipal Authorities Act, which applies to LCA. And so you can't, when it involves the Sunshine Act, you can kind of discuss that or kind of make comparisons as to what's happening generally in Pennsylvania with the cities or the townships and that kind of thing, the boroughs. But when it's under the Municipal Authorities Act, that specifically applies to municipal authorities and not to townships or to boroughs. So let me just give you a quick example of the difference. Under the borough code, they redid the borough code around 2012, and they tried to modernize it with allowing for instance, virtual participation by council members, which was considered advanced thinking at the time. But they included in that the quorum had to be have a physical presence requirement. Okay, so that created problems a little bit for the boroughs during the COVID situation. And I think that the school districts have something of a physical presence requirement as well. So what happened was there was something called Act 15 that was passed by the state to basically allow for virtual meetings during while the emergency declarations are in place. So it gets a little complicated, but so the capacity restrictions are going to be lifted as of May 31st. The emergency declaration, though, is going to stay in place, which based on this is all very recent, but the thinking is that because the emergency declaration stays in place, Act 15 stays in place, which allows for virtual meeting. Now, just to complicate things a little bit more, under the Municipal Authorities Act, there is not a physical presence requirement like there is for the borough code. So there's a little bit more leeway for municipal authorities. But I will say this. I think the consensus is that under the Sunshine Act, that the idea is to have in-person meetings. Okay, now or meetings at a physical location where the public can attend. Under the Sunshine Act, it's always been the case now for almost 2 decades that it does not require a board member to be physically present. The Sunshine Act, not the enabling act for an entity, but the Sunshine Act, so long as the attendees at the meeting can hear each other, including the person who is remotely calling in. Okay, which is what the case we have right here, and everyone can hear each other's comments and be heard when they speak. And the bylaws of the authority also allow for the presence of a board member to be counted when they're remotely calling in, so long as they can be heard. All right, so that does exist right now for LCA and generally under the Sunshine Act. But the thought is that under the Sunshine Act that having a physical meeting location where the public can go is basically the principle under that act. So in light of that, I think you need not only consider what is appropriate for the board, but what would be appropriate for the public to be able to participate in that way. Now, one of the things that there's always been the idea that people could remotely connect to the meeting. It's been happening for decades. But what wasn't the case, at least on a local level, was hybrid meetings. Okay, so where you could have a physical meeting place where people could go to, but some people participate remotely. And certainly hybrid meetings is what I see happening mostly with my clients, where they're having an in-person meeting location, and most of the time the board members are attending that way too. But they provide the opportunity for people to participate remotely as well. And I think that you're going to see a lot of that going forward, where there is both, because it's worked well enough that people are not, speculating that it's problematic from a logistics standpoint. There still can be problems with it, but the idea being that you'll have a physical meeting location at the organization's, headquarters or whatever, and then also provide access remotely. I think that's what you're going to see a lot of going forward. One of the reasons why you're going to see that going forward too is that prior to COVID, a lot of the municipalities or smaller organizations, they didn't have remote capability, but they all have it. And so the thought is, why wouldn't we use it if we have that ability? So those are my thoughts on it. But Act 15 stays in place to the extent that organizations need to rely upon that for virtual meetings. There's some leeway in regards to municipal authorities anyways, and but I don't think that permanent virtual meetings only are thought to be consistent with the Sunshine Act going forward once we kind of get out of this pandemic emergency period. So
What he said.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Does that count as your solicitor comments for the?
There you go.
We have a.
Liesl, you wanted to say something? Liesl?
Yes.
You were going to say something?
Yes, I was just going to say we have our internal pandemic response team, our staff team that meets every week to talk about these issues in terms of how we operate during this emergency or this pandemic. The discussion of the board meetings came up today. We talked about it a little bit. Chris is going to be working on some ideas around how we might be able to do hybrid meetings in the future. Not something we need to really figure out immediately, but I wanted to raise it today specifically so that you all are thinking about it, and when we have some specific ideas to share with you, we can do that, and you will have gotten your wheels turning on that topic.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, first.
That's it for staff comments.
That's all I have. Yes.
Anything more from solicitor?
No thanks.
Any comments from the public on any topics discussed today or anything else?
I don't have anything, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Jenny. All right. At this point in time, it's looks like 1:20. We will adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much for everybody's participation. Have a great day. Stay safe.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.